different because it's got a couple of extra pieces to look at too. So coming in from the left-hand side, you'll see the clean out that's coming into that first layer, or that first chamber. And you can see that's the dirtier of the two chambers. So it goes into a second chamber, and now we've introduced an air pump that's constantly keeping that water moving. Well, it is helping the bacteria and things in there by stirring things up and continuing to allow the materials to break down and turn into a clear water. So the air pumps they're located on the surface, and we can see up there at the very top where it says air pump. There's a couple tank lids that we can look inside the tank and inspect. And we keep moving along until we get to the final tank. That final tank, you'll also see as water's coming into that final tank, it's going through what's called a chlorinator. So for anybody that has a swimming pool and has ever seen those little white chlorine pucks, that's what goes there. You just unscrew the top of that and you drop those chlorine pucks down inside that chlorinator, and as water's passing through that area, it's going to pick up some of the chlorine off those chlorine pucks, and it's going to drop it into this final tank. And like I said, usually when we look at this final tank, water's clear. We don't really have any issues there, and things work well. So we also have a tank lid clean out to look at there as well. So there's a lot for us to look at as an inspector or a septic inspector. There's a lot for us to look at and check here. We have wiring. We could see 4 different tanks, and usually besides the first tank, you can pretty much inspect the entire tank because it's pretty clear water. We can check to make sure there's air pumps working. We can make sure that the controller's set up properly, it's mounted properly, the wiring to it's proper. We can make sure that they're adding chlorine to a system like this. Then we can also activate the pump while we're there and go check the spray heads and make sure the spray heads are working properly and that there's no problems with the spray heads. And inside this final tank, you'll see that there's additional floats. One, we'll show a picture, but some of those controllers will have one little red light, some of them will have a yellow light as well. The yellow light will indicate that there's a problem with this aerator, that the aerator is not working. And the red light, they set them up some different ways, but this first one is just going to turn the water on for the high water trigger that allows it to turn the pumps on to spray out. The second one can be kind of a high water alarm where it just has that red light come on, and that final one can be a buzzer that's saying, hey, we really have a problem, you go over here and take a look at this. So they can be different ways. Here's just another picture of kind of that same illustration. I think I like this one because it actually shows you gas sitting on the toilet. I think it's kind of funny, but anyway, right behind the guy on the toilet on the wall, you'll see where that electronic control panel is. They don't have to be located on the house. A lot of times they're located out here on the ground. You can see where it says air pump. A lot of times it'll just be mounted in that area on a post or something like that. So it doesn't necessarily have to be on the house. It can be. We see them probably 50-50. But same kind of thing here. We come out, we have a clean out. There has to be a clean out within 3 feet of the house. It goes into the different tanks, and you see it getting clear as it goes through the tank. And then that last tank, it pumps out of there into the spray heads. So this is what those chlorine tablets look like, kind of like the ones you put in your swimming pool, except for these are made for septic. When we go to a house, as an inspector, we pretty much get to look at everything. And when we're looking at septic and they don't have a pool, but we found a bucket there full of swimming pool chlorine tablets, we write up the fact that they're using the wrong type of tablets. So we will look and see if we can find what type of tablets they're using. There's no way for us to test them or look at them. There's no markings on these things that tell you which ones are which, but we do look, and these are supposed to be an actual tablet that's made for septic. Some of the pool tablets can kill the good bacteria that are in there that are constantly breaking the stuff down. So this is what that controller, like I was saying, this is what that controller looks like. It can be located on the house. It can also be located, like I said, out by the septic. And so on this controller, You see it says compressor alarm switch. We can turn that from the run side to test, and when we turn on the test side, it will turn on these lights and turn on these buzzers and let us test those to make sure they're working. We'll also reach down with a pole inside that septic, grab those little floats that are in there, and we'll turn those upside down and activate it to make sure that that they're working properly as well. So, if anybody has any questions, please feel free. So here's another picture of that. Underneath that concrete kind of square-looking lid that's on top of that round pipe, that's where your air pump's going to be located. It's underneath that protected concrete cover. Sometimes they're plastic. Of course, we see our control panel there. We see the two round tank lids laying on the ground, and then in the middle, we see the chlorine pump distribution pipe that's there. But like I was saying, here's their controller that's located out with the septic system, not necessarily in the house. This is what those little alarm floats look like. And when they're sitting like that, they're in the off position. They're just sitting there hanging from a piece of pipe. Like I was saying, as they come through, they'll turn upside down. I think I have an illustration of that. They'll turn upside down, and when they turn upside down, you can see the different lights and stuff turn on there. So I'm not a tech guy. It took me forever to make this work. But anyway, so but you can see the pump status lights come on and things like that as we go through. So that was going to activate the sprinkler. That was going to turn on the yellow light, and then if that one doesn't work and it goes to the very top, then it's going to turn on that red light and turn on the buzzer. So a drip distribution system. We don't see these that often. There's a specific reason why they have these, and it is some people don't want to discharge their septic and their clear effluent into the air and spray it in the yard. They want it to be sprayed underground. And then the other reason is sometimes you don't have enough space to spray a large sprinkler system head in your yard. So that's really the two reasons. I would say most of the time this is done because you don't have enough room to spray a big aerial spray head in the yard. So it's a pressurized system, just like the other ones. It has a pump. It usually uses at least 2 different absorption zones, so there'll be 2 different areas where these drip lines are. It requires an ongoing service or a contract. Let me talk about that for just 1 second. So with a gravity system, these old systems that don't have any kind of air pumps, they don't have pressurized motors that work sprinkler systems. Those older style gravity systems don't have to have a triannual inspection. Sorry. So most of our counties around Houston require a septic to be serviced 3 times a year, and you have to have a service contract with a septic company, and that has to be on file. And we'll get to that here a little bit more. That has to be on file with the county engineering department as to which septic company you are using. So as a realtor, I'm going into a contract with my buyer. We're purchasing a house that has septic on it. One of those questions I'm going to ask and help my client with is I'm going to find out who they're using already. Most people don't really have a preference of who it is that they have, maintaining their septic. And I'm going to find out who that company is, get a new contract for my buyers, so they can re-sign up and have their systems inspected as they should be. And then I'm going to take that form, and I have another form I'll show you here in a minute that goes together and goes to the county. But any of these newer style systems with the impellers and the air pumps, they're required to have it inspected 3 times a year. Like I said, this drip distribution system is one of the most expensive systems as far as septic they have. So you don't want to have to use this one unless you really need it. But it's used for challenging areas, and I'll show you what that looks like. So this yard here, we'll pretend that the backyard is not much bigger than this. So you have to have like a 50-foot area to use a sprinkler head from Septic and spray it, and they may not have that area. So they need to distribute this underground, and that's how they're doing it. So everybody's seen PEX pipe now. I think everybody kind of understands what PEX pipe looks like. It kind of looks like a garden hose almost, and that's what this drip distribution center system kind of looks like. So it has these purple hoses that run through, and it's kind of like a foundation soaker where it just kind of leaches water out. And so as water goes into here and it pressurizes, it just releases that water out of the pipe into this entire drain field there. And that's kind of what these look like. And it allows you to install this in an area that's much smaller than what you could get permitted for. But we see the 3 tank lids there. When you open up those 3 tank lids that are sitting next to each other, in one of those you're going to find the first tank, which is going to be the dirtiest of the 2. It gets clear towards the middle. There's probably going to be an aerator installed in that middle one. And that final tank, when you open that one up, that's where you're going to find the floats. Of course, the bigger tank over there on the right, that's our distribution tank, and it's going to help distribute this stuff out for us. Just really looking kind of what one looks like. So these spray irrigation systems, they're cheaper on lots that don't have a challenge. They got plenty of property here. They can use that out there. Nobody even knows that it really comes on, and they can spray. This one also requires ongoing maintenance as well. So this is the other form you need. So you as an agent have probably never seen this form. Your client definitely doesn't know what this form is. But when they're going through the process and they're buying septic, they really need to get the contract from the new septic company. So let's say it's Bob's Septic Inspection Company. You have a new contract with him that says, yes, for the next 3 years or however many years you do it, we have a contract with you that says you're going to come out and you're going to inspect our septic tank for us 3 times a year, and so you have that contract with him. This states that you're supposed to take that contract and fill out this form, and you have to submit it to the county within 30 days of home ownership. So if you don't know what this is as a real estate agent, how's your client ever going to know that when they buy a house with a septic tank, they're supposed to do this? No one's going to send them a letter, tell them that they need to fix this. Title's not going to tell them. So every one of these has they're all very, very much the same form. It's a state form. They'll just have a different county. If you look up there at the very top, it basically says a certain tract of land being situated in Montgomery County, Texas. If you type in affidavit to the public, and you type in Brazoria County, Harris County, Fort Bend County, you'll find this form. This form may be at their engineering department. It may just be on Google to take off. But if I'm dealing with some clients that are buying septic, I'm going to help them find a company, or at least inform them that they need to get a company of their choice to take care of the inspections that are required 3 times a year, and get a contract for that. I'm going to find this form, and I'm going to take this form with me when I go to title, and I'm going to have, because it has to be notarized, so I'll take this form with me when we go to title. I'll have my client sign it. I'll have the title company help with the notary, and I'll probably give this and the contract to the title company and have them send that out for certified mail. I'm sure your title companies will do it. Send it out certified mail, leaving a receipt to your client so they know that this went out, and it makes them compliant with all counties in Texas, which require you to do this within 30 days. So I get asked a lot, what if our clients don't do that? What if I've never done that? I get that from realtors all the time. It's like, I own a house with a septic and we don't have it maintained or serviced. I get that. I've asked that question to Fort Bend. I've asked it to Montgomery County, and I've asked them, so what are y'all doing for this? I said, there's so many people that don't know what this form is. And he said, we just want them to be compliant. We'll send them out a really nice letter that says, we understand that you probably don't even realize that you're in violation of this code. we need this affidavit to the public filled out, sent back to us along with your maintenance contract. And then they can get dirtier and dirtier and start charging you $250 to $500 a day until you have this until you have it fixed. So for the most part, they just want people to get compliant, let them know that they're not being compliant, and they said that's generally about it. What they have to do on this. Any questions on that? That's good. Anybody ever filled one of these out or seen it before? I don't know that I've ever had an agent do it. So, I mean, I don't think I've ever actually, I'll probably show this to 3,000 of y'all, and I still don't think I've ever had an agent that said, yeah, I know what that is. It's definitely not a form you're going to find in Trek or be taught about in any kind of Trek classroom. So, this is just kind of what that contract would look like. It's a little longer than this, it's several pages, but it's just a cut out of it. But this one is a little different because it's telling you that it's a 2-year initial maintenance contract. So if you have a brand new septic tank installed on your property, it's actually a requirement of the septic company who installed it to give you this 2-year initial maintenance contract. It should be part of their pricing. It's already paid for and taken care of. So when you move into when you get a brand new septic tank, this should all be done, but you still need to make sure that it's being done. Make sure that it was filed properly, and make sure that the county has it. So I think this is the most important information you're going to get, and this is just a little bit of a taste of a class I teach called plating. I don't know if any of y'all have taken that before. A lot of people take it multiple times when they get it, but this is very important information. So it's minimum lot size requirements. So Harris County and Fort Bend County, they go by what the government code says. And it says if you need, on a piece of property, you need a water well or a septic tank. So that means you'd have one or the other. That means that you have a mud district that takes care of sewage, and all you need is a water well, or, you know, the neighborhood has a public water well that they're giving for the community, and all you need is a septic. So either or, you have to have a minimum of 0.5 acres to be able to put one of those systems on. If you are somewhere and it's rural and you need a water well and a septic tank, it has to be a minimum of 1 acre. So Waller and Montgomery County, they're a little bit more rural than we are, and they run into this problem so often. If you need either one of these systems, either a well or a septic tank, it has to be at least 1 acre. And if you need both, it has to be 1.5 acres as a minimum. So if you had a client who lived in Waller County and he decided, I have 2 acres and I want to separate my 2 acres into 2 1-acre lots, and I want to sell the other acre lot. Can you sell that acre lot for him? Not if anybody ever wants to live there. So realtors are sued over this a lot. I definitely recommend you getting in my plating class. We get much more in depth into this and talk more about it. But I had this in here. I've added this into the septic part of it because it's important and it's part of septic. But we get much more detailed into land separation, when a property has to be platted, and when it doesn't. So definitely suggest looking on our website. If you go to our website at sunbeltinspections.com, on the top right, it talks about continuing education, and you can see all the classes that we're teaching there. So definitely recommend you go and look at that. If you deal with rural properties, and I highly suggest you take a look at that class.
So Chris, yes. I have a question on that. I have a 1-acre property, and it does have a well, and it has the public septic system. But I did want to separate the property, so I'm not able to do that.
Not if you, well, is it over an acre?
It's 1 acre.
Okay, so if you said you had water going to it?
It has a well. It already has a well to a house, but I wanted to separate the acre and to be able to build another house on it, but I would have to do another well for the other house.
Does it have septic?
It has the city's providing the septic.
Okay, so city's providing septic. As long as when you separate those two, they are over 0.5 acres, you can do it. if you have 0.99 acres, you're not gonna be able to do it. But, I mean, you've gotta get a really precise survey that gives you 1.0001 or whatever, you know, or, you know, 0.50, it's gotta be, you know, at least a half an acre to be able to do it. And it has to be replatted when you separate those two, being that you're separating that property and it's under 5 acres. It has to be replatted, and depending on exactly where it's located, that's gonna cost about $13,000 to have it replatted. It'd take about 6 months.
Okay, and I also have another property that they had just put in the septic system. I have the spray system, and they, it wasn't used for about 2 years. Do I need to get any type of inspection done on it, or?
Are you representing a buyer?
No, it's actually my own property.
I mean, it should be serviced. It should have been serviced. If you did it 2 years ago, it should have been inspected 6 times already.
Well, they did give me a contract, but I don't know of anybody going out there.
Yeah, you need to look at the contract, find out who it is, and then give that company a call, and find out when the last time they serviced it. And, you know, but it is the requirement of that septic company who installed it for you to inspect it 6 times. So, we've got to do it for 2 years.
And did I need to transfer anything over? Like
Now,
a warranty?
did you put the septic in, or did you buy it that way?
No, the seller put it in right before we purchased it.
You're gonna have to do just what I told you about earlier, the affidavit to the public. So you're gonna need to get that contract from you're gonna need to get the contract of whoever they paid for to have it. Most septic installation companies don't do just the routine little service and maintenance. It's usually a little bit different company. So you need to find out who they contracted, who they paid to come out and do the inspections for you, get that information, and then get the affidavit to the public, and you can submit that to the county.
Okay, and that spray system, that it doesn't have any risk of any type of freezing or anything whenever we had all that freeze them through, do they?
No, because everything's underground, and it doesn't have any, it usually doesn't have any water in it if it's above surface level. You know, if it turns on, it's gonna turn on and pump all the water out, and then that pipe's gonna go back. There's no water held inside any of those pipes, so I've never really heard of any kind of freezing with them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a
Any
question.
questions, though? Yes, go ahead.
I'm selling a half acre in Montgomery,
Okay,
and there's it needs a well and a septic system.
Okay.
And
So-
they said that
so we're
it's
gonna
okay.
we're gonna get kind of deep into this out of the septic really quick. This is, if you look at the platting class, if that piece of property was separated into a half acre lot before 1987, grandfathered in.
It
Yes.
was it, yeah, it was done.
So we can get
So
rid
it does fit, does it fit in a half acre? Or-
It can, but with a half acre, that's awful small. And when they do that on-site septic field evaluation report, which is this right here, they'll look at it to decide where it is. So this is actually, this is a great question, Rosie. You put me right where I want to be. So this is actually my piece of property. And you see on the top left of the drawing, you can see all those little lines drawn back and forth. That is my underground drip system for my septic. I couldn't put in a spray system because I plan on building a shop behind my house. You can see where it says future possible shop. So I didn't have room to put those sprinklers, so I had an underground drip system in the front yard. And that's how mine was designed. That's how I told the engineer when he came out. I told him this is what I want to do. He measured everything out. He came back to me and said this will work, and we got this done. This particular drawing cost about $1,500 to have done, so it's important. You see the dotted circle that goes all the way around the house. Everybody see that? You see right in the middle of that where it says existing well, and it's got a little dot. Everybody with me? So in the middle of that circle, it says existing well. So what that is it says that nowhere inside of that big circle can I have any sort of septic, because I can't have septic within 100 feet of a well. So it takes away what 2/3 of my property probably of area that I can even put septic, because that's a 1 acre lot, and that's there. So what would happen if my neighbor, just to the left of my piece of property, just right there next to those drain lines where I have my septic, what if he had his water well located right there on his piece of property? Well, he draws a 100-foot circle even on my piece of property. So it's very likely that on a 1 acre piece of property that you could have interference from your neighbor's water wells or your neighbor's septic that keep you from getting a water well or getting a septic on a property like this at all. So when you're dealing with a piece of property like this, if I'm a real estate agent, I'm representing a buyer, knowing what I know now, I would never buy a piece of property, especially a raw piece of land, from anyone, unless I had this environmental report to go with it. Because the last thing I want to do is buy a piece of property for someone that's an acre, for them to realize after they've already purchased it, that it doesn't fit a water well and septic on it. I know that's a difficult thing to do. We get into that more when you get into planning. So come to that class if that's kind of thing you're interested in, or you deal with that type of country type properties and stuff like that. Come there, I can teach you a lot. So, anybody have any questions on that?
So that means that in a half acre you cannot have, it's not gonna fit.
It can. It depends on what type of system they have to run and where it's going to go. You are grandfathered in. They have to figure it out. So that's grandfathered in, like I said, and they have to figure out a place to put it. It's kind of like I showed y'all that system where that drip system was installed in those people's backyard, like really, really close up tight to the house. They had to figure out a place to put it. I did an inspection just south of Lake Conroe, and there was 8 tiny houses on 8 tiny house lots. It was a really little piece of property. And when I walked into the backyard on this inspection, there's an aerobic drip system, like in a 10 by 10 square, like this tiny backyard. I was like, there's no way this is right. So I called my environmental company that I use and talk to all the time. And she said, nope, it's all right. I was actually the one that engineered all that. She goes, all of those little 1/16 of an acre lots were divided by a builder back in 1970. He never developed them, and he said he sold them a couple of years ago to a new developer who built all that, and we had to figure out a place somewhere that stuff was going to fit. So, yeah, it's a little different. That 1987 rule is pretty important. So, anything else?
I have a question, but it's kind of more on a personal side. My husband and I inherited some property, and obviously there's a shop built, before his father passed away, and there was a septic put in, but I don't know if it's even hooked up. Like, the house is just framed out, and that's kind of one of the reasons why I did this class too, was to figure this stuff out. I don't see a pump on it, so I'm trying to figure out what kind of system is it, and if it's even hooked up in the house.
Yeah, so if you don't have any electronics out there, it's an older gravity style system.
Because it would have been put in like 4 years ago.
Yeah. Somewhere, if it's been done in the last 4 years, yeah, I'm looking at it now. Walk over a little closer to it. I want to see.
Yeah.
Okay, there's your 2 tanks. It just looks like an older gravity style system, unless they haven't installed the rest of it. But that looks like kind of what it is. It's just a gravity style tank.
Yeah, we have a drain field. I mean, I can see the drain field and stuff, the pipes sticking up, but I don't see any electronics. And so we're like wanting to hook up the toilet and kind of work on it. But I wanted to, would it be connected to the house? I assume that.
So it's a pretty easy process there. Open up that first tank lid, stick a water hose in the drain pipe where your toilet is, and turn the water on, see if there's water draining into the tank.
Okay.
I mean, it'd be pretty easy to tell that. But I'd probably call a septic company out just to have it looked at.
I don't even know what company put it in or anything.
Yeah.
That's what we've been trying to figure out. You know, it's kind of like it was given, we got it, you know, he passed away, and we don't really know what all was done and who it was done through.
Sure, yeah, I would call any septic company if you can't find the information. You can also give it the county engineering department and ask if they have any permits for it.
Okay.
So they may be able to tell you who did it, so.
Okay, because it's not in Houston, otherwise I mean, it's in Bastrop County, so.
Wait for me to go do a septic inspection.
Yeah, exactly.
But questions?
I have a question on the gray water.
Yes.
On the same property that we bought, there's a pipe coming to a pond, because we have a pond at the back.
Yeah.
But I never figured out, I don't know what that pipe was coming from. How can I know, excuse me, if that's what they were using that for?
We can, yeah, I'm not real sure on that either. I mean, I've never seen anybody drain gray water into a pond. But it could be coming from the well. It could be coming from, it could just be a drain from somewhere else. I'm not real sure. That we'd have to come look at it. That's not real sure. But I've never seen gray water drain into a pond before. So.
Okay, yeah,
Not
because there's
sure of the
like a
legality.
pipe there.
And being that I've never seen that before, I'm not real sure what the legality of that either. I'd have to look that up.
Okay.
So, anybody else?
So if you call any septic tank company, they know what to do, right? How to fit it in the property and all that.
Yeah, not really a septic company. You're going to call an environmental company. So it requires an environmental engineer. The environmental engineer has to go and draw all this up. He submits a bunch of paperwork. It goes to the county. The county finally stamps off on it and gives them the stamp. Once, because a septic company, if I'm looking at this house and I call Bob's Septic Installation Company, I said, Bob, come over here and install a septic tank. The first thing he's going to ask me for is this. This is called that on-site septic field evaluation. So he's going to ask me for this. Do you have that? And I'm going to tell him yes or no. If I say yes, he's going to say, send it to me. I'll give you a price. He knows everything he needs to know. He knows all the measurements. He knows everything he needs to know right here to be able to install this system. If I tell him no, he's going to tell me, I'm sorry, I can't give you a price. I'm not even coming out. Get this first, and then call me. So you can't do much without this.
Chris, this is Terry Poole. I have a question. I have a buyer that has hired me to be a real estate consulting to help them. They're in Australia right now, and they're developing a floodplain property in Magnolia Park. And so what do you know about septic systems in floodplains according to the Montgomery County regulations?
You need to call Environmental Resources.
Okay.
You need to ask for Brandy and tell Brandy that Chris told you to tell her to call her.
Okay.
Her number is 936
Okay.
672 7025.
Okay.
She's located at Conroe.
Okay. And what is the company name? Environmental
Resources.
Thank
And
you.
she will tell you everything you need to know. They're
Okay.
fantastic.
Yeah, and the second question I have is, what do you know about about septics for development of commercial property?
They basically fall underneath the same stuff, but if you have a specific question, just ask her when you're there.
Okay, she's a good person for that. Thank you so much for that
They're
resource.
the permitting experts, and that stuff gets, there could be a difference in just different areas of the county as well, so she could definitely answer all those questions for you.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Yeah, she's great. This whole planning process and all this, she's taught me more about that than anybody. She's really
Okay, yeah, and I already signed up for your planning class. Thank you.
Yeah, do it in a hurry. It fills up pretty quickly. So, anyway, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Sunbelt real quick, and then I'm going to share probably one of the coolest things I've found that can help market, brand, and do all that stuff at the end. You're more than welcome to get off the call at that time. But, I think this is as cool as them inventing Google. It's crazy, the stuff that we've changed in our office in the past week after I went to a seminar. But I'm going to tell you a little bit about Sunbelt real quick, and I'll share my screen. I'll show you all that too. We offer everything that your clients can need in one phone call. So we're destroying insect reports. We have our own pest control company as well. But water well testing, septic, sprinkler, pools, thermal. We do sewer cam inspections. We can save you and your clients a ton of time as we go through the inspection process. We get everything out the same day, except for the things that have to go to a lab, like mold and water well testing. But our reports always come out the same day. we try to make your job as easy as you possibly can, at least through the inspection process. If we can do that, you guys will keep referring customers to us. We have a 200% satisfaction guarantee. If I go out to one of your clients, we do an inspection, they don't like us for any reason, after the inspection, and let us know, I'll return the inspection fee to them, but I'll also write another check for that amount, and I'll pay for their next inspection, and they can hire an inspector of their choice for it. We work really hard. We do a great job. Real estate agents are really our only source of work and our only source of referrals, and that's how we built our business. But this is our contact information if you want to try to get a hold of either one of us. And that's our pest control company. And hey, if you need me, you're working on a listing and you get an inspection report, you don't understand it, and you need somebody to help you talk through something. This is our contact information. I can always be reached, and be more than happy to help you with something we're not even involved with, or give you an opinion, or the right place to start looking up information. So
also, I have a question. Also for your services. Okay, so in the past, I've always when I've had a buyer, I always go to the inspection the last 30 minutes of it and bring my buyer, and so I've always done that. But recently, an inspector that I was using stopped meeting with the client and going early and stuff. So you're available for questions from the buyer?
So Terry, I don't think I'm the end-all be-all of home inspectors, and probably not everything that we've ever done is perfect, but I think the most important thing in the entire home inspection process is meeting with clients afterwards.
Okay, that's what I'm looking for. Thanks.
Yeah, it's the most important thing we do, because I can send a client a 50-page report, regardless how it's written, and they're going to be scared to death when they look at this report. If I have a 50-page report and I'm able to go over all that stuff with the client, they understand everything on the inspection report. They were educated what all that stuff means. I can eliminate a lot of fears that they may have moving forward, or teaching them, here's how I would negotiate for this, or here's what needs to be done for this. Yeah, it's extremely important. It's the most important thing we do.
Yeah, and I think it's very important, and I was very disappointed to find that I got pushed back on trying to meet with the client. So I am looking for someone, other source. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah, I never want to talk bad about another company or anybody.
Yeah, I'm
else,
not going to say words, but I'm just saying that I really think that is very important. The buyer has questions, and it's out of my lane.
Yeah, yeah. To us, it's the most important thing that it's the most important thing that we do. It's the most important part of the entire inspection process. So that is definitely not something that we're gonna. That's definitely not something that we're gonna do there. But anyway, I want to start this new thing with you, and y'all are gonna be blown away. I think if you already know about it, then y'all are cooler than me. Let me share this real quick. And I learned this at a seminar last week, and we have used it a ton. Okay, is everybody looking at this where it says Chat GPT?
Oh, I love ChatGPT. It's great.
Okay, if you already know about it, then you know how cool it is. If you don't, then pay attention, because this thing is super, super cool. It's free right now. They're going to eventually charge for it. I don't know how much they're going to charge, but I would be willing to pay a lot for it, because we've redone our entire. We got to be careful with websites, but we've redone. We do social media. We do everything. So. And down here on this line, I'm gonna pretend I'm a real estate agent. So this thing will write me an entire letter. It does all kinds of stuff, but I'm just gonna show you the letter part. Write a letter. So it's gonna write a letter. My name is Chris. And I'm an agent. I'm just gonna put Keller Williams. Everybody can criticize me. I'm not an agent anywhere, but with Keller Williams, I met Mr. Jones at a what do y'all call it when y'all go out and try to get a listing? A listing appointment.
Listing appointment.
At a listing appointment. I want to thank him for his time. And the more you put in, into this, so the more you put into this, the better. information you have, the better it's gonna, the better letter, thing like that.